Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Doman Learning's June monthly question and answer session. My name is Spencer Doman. I'm a co-founder of Doman Learning. I'm here with another founder of Doman Learning, Noah, my brother, who's also the head of parent success at Doman Learning. Wherever you are in the world, welcome. What we do during this Q&A is we take questions from parents all around the world who are interested in early childhood education and the Doman method, and most importantly, in giving their young children spectacular abilities in the first months of life. And so wherever you are, whether you're watching us right now on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, you can post your questions in the comments box. And if we've got time for them, we will get to them. We always begin with pre-submitted questions, which come from parents in the Doman Learning Noah, sorry, what's the Facebook group called? The Doman Learning
Doman Learning Parent Group, yeah.
Thank you. That is a Facebook group for parents who have enrolled in Doman Learning courses and use our materials. So we always take their questions first, and then if we've got some leftover time, we take questions from the audience. So get your questions in early if you have them. A couple of quick announcements before we get to questions. So first of all, you can book a call with Noah anytime using Noah's Calendly link. Noah, can you talk just for a second about that?
Sure. You'll see a QR code in the corner. You can scan that QR code and you can schedule a call with me. This is a discovery call. It's free. It's just to see how the Doman method might fit in your family, right? How would you like to proceed with your child's early education? It's one of my favorite parts of this job is, contacting and directly talking to the parents. So please sign up. I love it. And we'll see where's the best place to start. Yeah.
Great. There's a QR code there if you want to book a call with Noah. The second announcement I wanted to say is that we're going to be rolling something new out here at Doman Learning called the Doman Early Success Program. And this is for parents who want one-on-one coaching with me. Parents who want to have a customized program created for their children for the next 6 months. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to us, reach out to Noah. He will get you started with it. He can tell you all about how this one-on-one coaching works. And we do have limited spaces available just because of my time limitation. So if you're interested in getting started, reach out and Noah will help you get signed up.
If I could add just a little bit to that, right?
Yeah.
It's not launched yet. We're really excited to have Spencer working with parents one-on-one. But like Spencer said, it is limited. So if you want to be one of the first, you should contact me as soon as possible. And you can do so. I put it in the banner. You can email hello@domanlearning.com, or you can DM us on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok, and I'll answer you personally.
Yeah. And as many of you probably know, I do a lot of one-on-one coaching with parents of children with special needs. And, because of that, it's been hard to work time into my schedule to coach, well neurotypical children and parents in reading programs, math programs, and so on. But we've fortunately been able to make some time available for me. So I'm really looking forward to this new thing. And then last but not least, as we talk today, if you want to enroll in any Doman Learning course, if you use the coupon code Spencer10, you get 10% off at checkout, any bundle, course, or materials at domanlearning.com. So please use it.
Here, I'll just put it up on the banner. The code is Spencer10, all caps.
Thank you, Noah.
Okay, should we get into the Q&A section?
Yeah, let's go.
So as we've said, these are pre-submitted questions from our parents. The first one is from Fatima. I have been going through the Doman math cards with my son, who is 3.5. Every time we do them, he repeats the numbers after I say them. Is it okay for him to do this? I'm just wondering if he's more focused on repeating what I say instead of listening to the number I'm saying and learning the actual cards themselves.
Good question, Fatima. The answer is it's perfectly fine. This is a very common thing for children to do. Very often they like to, this happens with the reading program too. Sometimes children will repeat words after the parent reads them aloud. And sometimes they repeat numbers with the math program. Children generally will do this for two reasons, both of them perfectly good reasons. The first is that they want to feel like they're a part of it, like it by them saying the numbers, they feel like they're doing something active with their parents rather than just kind of taking a passive role. The second reason is as children, especially when they get to that maybe 18-month-old to 3-year-old time span, very often they want to say things out loud because they want to develop their own speech. They intuitively know the more I talk, the more my speech is developed. And that's why we often tell parents that these programs, even though we're working on teaching a child to read and math, very often they are great for speech development as well. Kids on our program tend to have very developed speech at a young age. So absolutely, it's fine. Sometimes you might have to slow down your presentation half a second. Like if you show your child the number 5, right, or the quantity 5, and he says 5, you want to have that number there so he's saying 5 as he looks at it. You don't want to be putting 6 while he's saying 5, if that makes sense. So put that card to the front, say 5, he says 5, you say great, you move, you say 6, he says 6, and so on.
Okay, great. For people who are joining us, we are first going through pre-submitted questions for our monthly Q&A. These are from parents who are already enrolled in our programs. If you would like us to answer your question, just put it in the comments below, and when we get through the pre-submitted questions, we'll answer yours first. Okay, the next question is from Tyre. Their first question is, should I start without pictures and introduce them only if I feel the child needs the extra engagement? So obviously Spencer knows this, but for parents, this is in regards to our reading program. A lot of people know our reading program by the big red words, but we have in recent years introduced images to all of our reading words.
Yeah, and we don't know Tyre's child's age. Is that correct, Noah?
I might be able to get it.
All right. Well, regardless, if your child is maybe 6 years, maybe 5 years and up, I would say go ahead and just show the words. Because at that point, if you're showing a lot of words, your child at 6 years of age may know what a lot of them mean. If you show the picture for lion, and you say lion, your child may already know what that is even before you show the word lion. But for a younger child, so basically 4 years, maybe even 5 years and below, I would recommend showing pictures because the pictures are just going to make it so much more engaging, right? If you're saying peas and peas, and imagine if you're teaching a 3-year-old, they may or may not know what these different vegetables are. And so showing them a picture along with the word just makes it so much more engaging. So it depends on the age of the kid.
So Tyre's child is 10 to 11 months old.
Oh, definitely the pictures. Yeah, for sure. And I would say especially at that age, not just because the pictures increase the child's comprehension, but also because they increase the child's interest. Usually 12 to 24 months, so 1 to 2 years of age, tends to be the most challenging span for kids with getting their focus because they constantly want to move. They're learning to walk. So yeah, especially at that age, I would do pictures, definitely.
Going on to Tyre's second question, I want to teach my daughter English as well. Is there a different methodology to teaching her to read in a second and third language?
So it depends on if Tyre speaks English or not. Based on the fact that Tyre's asking very eloquent questions in English, I'm going to guess.
By the way, in their next question, they say that they're fluent in English.
Got it. So in that case, no, there's no difference for Tyre in showing English as a second language, but there's a big but here. Tyre needs to make sure that they are speaking in English to the child on a daily basis so that your child is hearing English spoken in the environment, because then your child understands the language and then showing the cards makes complete sense.
This goes into Tyre's third question, which is, my English is fluent and I can spend an hour or so time speaking to her in English every day. Is there a recommended amount of time or a benchmark we should reach before teaching her how to read in English?
No benchmark. So 1 hour a day is amazing. Do that. I always say to parents, the most important thing is that you're just making sure you're giving your child the opportunity to hear all of the languages that you speak. And if you can make an hour work, that's amazing. But no, it's not like you speak to your child for 3 months and then can start reading. Start speaking to your child in English now as a second language, and you can start the cards.
Great. And for people who are joining, we are doing our monthly Q&A. We first go through pre-submitted questions from parents who are enrolled in our courses. If you are not, that's totally fine. We answer public questions at the end, so just post them in the chat, and we will get to them first when we get through all these pre-submitted questions. Moving on to Tyre's fourth question. To teach reading in English, should I use the pictures I made for teaching to read in my native language? I guess so, to use the same pictures.
Yeah. It's not a must, but it makes a lot of sense because it means you don't have to print as many cards, and your child has already seen those images before, right? Mm-hmm. So if you've got pictures you've used in your first language, I would use those same pictures for the second language. I would just swap in the new word cards.
And then Tyre's last question, how long should I wait between the programs to teach different languages, if at all?
Generally, I tell parents that I'd like them to be starting Doman books. Sometimes people call Doman books homemade books if they've read my grandpa Glenn Doman's book where he calls them homemade books. We now call them Doman books. If your child has hit the Doman books in the first language, your child is ready to get started with a second language. And I just say that because it means you've really moved on that pathway in the reading program in the first language.
And just to make sure, it's totally fine to teach 2 languages, 3 languages.
Perfectly fine. 2 languages, 3 languages, 4 languages. It's and it's perfectly fine to speak in those languages. So I would say to Tyre, let's say Tyre has only started single words in their first language, and they're thinking, "Oh, it's going to take me a couple months to get to Doman books," because anyone who's taken the Doman learning courses knows that Doman books come around month 4 in the reading program. That's where they also appear in the Doman learning materials. So even if you're not there yet in the first language, you can start speaking to your child in the second language, and then when you get to those Doman books, you add the second language.
Great. Okay. So before we move on to Bree's question, I just want to reiterate, we're going through pre-submitted questions. If you have a question for us, just put it in the chat or in the comments below, and we'll get to it when we get through these questions. So this is from Bree. Hi, I'm doing reading, math, and gift of knowledge with my 15-month-old. Is there anything we can do with music? I know the books talk about the Suzuki method, but not sure if that's something I do at home with him or wait until he's older and find a teacher.
Good question. So Suzuki typically starts a little later than 2 years of age. Now, what I would recommend at this age is doing something called a listening program. And for a listening program, it's really about giving a child music appreciation. And a listening program is pretty simple. And it's all about kind of bringing a musically rich environment into your home. You know, imagine if a child is growing up in a home where everyone in the home plays instruments, right? That child is being raised in a musically enriched environment, right? Everyone is playing different instruments, maybe violin and piano and guitar and so on. And the child's hearing all the sounds of music. And they're learning a lot of music along the way because the family discusses music, right? And those children that grow up in those musically enriched homes always learn musical instruments themselves, right? So now, if you do not play an instrument yourself, your first priority should be giving your child music appreciation. The best way to do that is to take great works of music and play them for your child, but to also tell your child who wrote that piece, right? And what the name of the piece is. You know, many people will hear music and they go, "Oh, I know that song," but they don't know who wrote it, or right. And so, so what you would say, for example, is, you would say, "All right, this is Concerto in A minor by Antonio Vivaldi," and you'd go ahead and hit play. you know? And this obviously is so much easier for parents in the modern age than it ever was in the past. When Noah and I were kids, my mom would play us cassette tapes and then later CD, songs on CDs. Now, a parent, using YouTube or Spotify can access these songs easily. So the great thing is when you do this with your child, you're not teaching your child music. Mozart is teaching your child music, or Vivaldi, or the Beatles, or whatever, you would like it to be. So, and I would really say to parents, of course, you want your child to love many different kinds of music, right? So it's a great opportunity for you to say, even if you're not into classical music or into jazz, to say, you know what, I want to give my child some opportunity to listen to these different kinds of music. So even if I don't fully appreciate it, they can appreciate it more than I do. That's a wonderful thing to do. But it's also a great way to introduce your child to the music you love. If you love the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, play those things for your child too. Pass that love down onto your children. I mean, I know from many children who have grown up on this program, they very often will, of course, love their own music that they find during their lives, but they also love a lot of the music that they hear from their parents and their grandparents, right? Like Noah and I know this, like we've taken a lot of love of the music my parents listened to when we were children, and also even my grandparents. So it's a great way to pass down music appreciation. Then I'll make one more comment here. Children who appreciate music and already have an ear for it are so much more predisposed to be successful with playing an instrument. So much of playing an instrument and the Suzuki method is hearing based. Can the child hear that they're playing the right note at the right time? And so a big part of Suzuki method education is letting children listen to songs many, many times so they can learn to play them on the violin or on the piano or whatever the instrument is. So I would say hold on starting an instrument now. You can start looking for Suzuki method violin teachers in your area, but in the meantime, work on music appreciation.
Yeah, I don't know if you said this, but we both were, you and I and our siblings all did Suzuki for years and years.
We did.
I also
violin.
Yeah. And I want to say just like a really fun way to connect this back to the program is making Doman cards, right? That gift of knowledge program, making your own Doman cards of musicians, your kid really enjoys, and then you can teach the facts as well as listen to the music and point it out to them.
Yeah.
I think that was always fun for me as a kid. I know. Being able to see the composers, their actual photos, and then learn about them too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. So literally, if you're saying, here's the song, Yesterday by the Beatles, show a card with a picture of the Beatles on it, so that, your children can link those two things together.
Great. That was fun. We don't usually get asked music questions, so that was really nice. Okay, this is from Kos. How many cards can I show a child in one session at maximum? This is about Doman cards, about gift of knowledge. I noticed that a set of 20 cards per session gets much more interest than the standard set of 5 cards. When the child sees a big pack of cards, she runs towards me faster. Is that okay?
Yeah, in short, it's okay. And I know Kos well, and I know that he's been doing a program for some time. And, when a child has been on the Doman Method program for some time, and that child loves the learning sessions, it's perfectly fine at that point to start making the sessions longer. Also, as children get older, their tendency toward wanting longer sessions does increase. So that's perfectly fine. I mean, the sticking to 5 card rule is really more for parents in the first maybe year or so of the program to make sure they don't overdo it, because so many parents do.
Yeah, I remember we got sent a video from a mom. It was a video from like 35 years ago, something like that, a VHS video. And she was showing her kid Doman cards, and she showed the kid like 30 cards in a row, which we don't recommend. But the kid was so engaged. It was like Renaissance paintings. and she was naming each one.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, because if the child is learning and the child is loving learning, who am I to say don't show that many cards? Many of these things, and by the way, children have their own personalities. Some children will love to sit for 50 cards, and some absolutely will not. So it's also about learning your own child's unique, learning ways.
Before we move on to Kosa's last two questions, I just want to let everyone know this is our monthly Q&A. We are answering pre-submitted questions from parents who are enrolled in our courses. But if you want your question answered, just put it in the comments or in the chat below, and we will get to it once we get through these questions. Okay, going to Kosa's second question. When should we consider that a child remembers a Doman card or word? Should we test their recall after 1 day, 3 days, 2 weeks, or at another interval?
So the question is, when should we evaluate if a child knows a card?
Yes, exactly.
So my general answer to this would be after you have completed teaching the card, right? Which for most children, they're going to be seeing cards at a repetition of 3 times a day, which is what we teach for 5 days. So for most families, I would say you're not going to do any problem solving. You're not going to ask any questions about that card until after the 5 days is completed. Now, for Kos and his daughter, since she's been on the program for some time, it might be less than 5 days for her, right? Some parents will say to us, oh, I'm teaching cards for 3 days because my child knows them after 3 days or doesn't want to see them more than that. So in that case, it could be after 3 days. But generally, when we start off, it's after 5. Yeah, I don't like to do problem solving with a child in the midst of teaching cards because I don't feel it's really fair. It's not really fair to ask a child to demonstrate knowledge of something if they haven't gotten the necessary frequency to learn it. And in the end, we want the child most of all to be successful. So we want to give them the frequency they need to learn it. So then they can show off what they know rather than feel pressured with something they don't know yet.
I just want to say, Raj KSGX, we see your question. We're going through pre-submitted questions from parents who are enrolled in our courses, but we'll get to it when we get through these questions. This is Kosa's last question. It's a bit of a sensitive question, but what should we do about haters? They aren't envious. They simply act like this. Don't teach your child, so I won't have to teach mine either, and my child won't look silly compared to the other children. So yeah, what do you think about that?
So what I have started to say to parents more and more recently is that you're going to get criticized for your parenting regardless. So you might as well just parent your child the way you feel is best. And I think a lot of parents around the world are fearful of taking less typical paths because of fear of being judged. Now, I have to say, being an adult and looking back, I am deeply appreciative that my parents made a lot of non-typical decisions when they raised us. And so, I think as an adult, I'm able to look back and really be grateful for a lot of the courage that they showed. One of my, a story my mom has told Noah and I often is we have a very close family member who wasn't a member of the Doman family, but a member of my mom's side of the family who came to her when we were now adults. We were all over the age of 18. And this person said to my mom, I really questioned your decisions as a young parent, teaching them these things. And now that I see that they've grown up, you did the right thing. And, I just want to tell you I was wrong to be critical of you. And so some people like that will eventually learn through your example. And that's really special. Some people will never learn. And, my grandfather, Glenn, used to say, don't spend your time trying to convince the one person who will never understand to get you. It's a waste of time. Focus on the people who will understand you, and the people who will understand you, usually the first time they'll get it if you explain it to them. So yeah, I mean, I know that it's a kind of cliched answer and maybe super not helpful, but I would say don't care. That would be my advice, and just be proud of what you're doing with your child, because it's exceptional, it's special, and most of all, just try to have fun with it. That's the most important thing. Noah, do you want to add anything to that?
I mean, from my perspective, we've been honored to be a part of Kos and his daughter's learning journey I feel like years now,
Yeah.
and you've done such an incredible job. Keep up your amazing work. It's so special. I remember our first emails years ago, and then getting videos of you and your daughter reading together and her reading independently. Yeah, that's all that needs to be said.
Yeah. And along with that, about not trying to convince people, sometimes you also have to be careful about who you kind of let in on certain things. If there's someone that is going to be critical of, you teaching your children, maybe you just don't talk to them about it. Yeah, not everyone needs to be a part of these conversations.
Okay, moving on to Allison, who's the last of our pre-submitted questions. Janelle, I see your question in the chat. We will get to it after we get through Allison's and another question that's come in earlier. So from Allison, I am doing the reading program with my boys, ages 3 and nearly 2. They used to be interested, but now they only want to see a few sets during breakfast. While they are eager to see the brand new words and sentences we add each day, they refuse to look at the old ones. I currently show 4 sets of words and 3 sets of sentences daily, adding own pictures for interest. Should I reduce the number of sets? I am hesitant because their progress is unclear. During occasional problem solving, they get some right and some wrong. Sometimes it feels like they don't want to do it and intentionally pick the wrong one. What do you recommend?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot there. My first thought is to decrease the sets. That is my first thought, because there's the old saying in the Doman method: you always want to stop before your child wants you to stop. And so if you're kind of overstaying your welcome, especially if your boys are basically saying to you, "We want to do this in the morning," and you're trying to do all of these sets at breakfast, it might feel to them like kind of overkill, and I say this half jokingly, but desperation, if a child senses their parent is desperate, like, please, look at the cards, it makes the dynamics all wrong. None of us like someone who feels like, we never like it when someone feels desperate. It makes us uncomfortable. So I would reduce the sets. Another thing I will say, some children do really well when they're learning together, siblings, like they sit and watch together. Other times kids distract one another. And so that's another thing that, Allison may want to consider. Would it be better sometimes to kind of do sessions separately with them? Just some food for thought there. Now, Allison comments there about kids sometimes teasing by answering incorrectly. And that does happen sometimes. There's sometimes children who find it hilarious to purposefully answer questions incorrectly. It's kind of a way of teasing parents, and they know that mom sometimes doesn't like that. So I just feel like in these kind of cases you want to simplify things. So I would reduce the number of sets and just see if maybe sometimes occasionally doing sessions separately might be positive.
Well, I think this goes into Allison's second question about Doman cards, where they get bored of them after about 3 days. She problem solves with them, but they almost always know all of them. So it seems like because I think they're recommended for 7 days, but around 3 days her kids get bored of the Doman cards.
Got it.
And their retention is very good.
Yeah. And that's perfectly fine to show them for 3 days if that's what your sons want, and if they're learning them. And the other thing is that there are certain children, it's kind of interesting that when they start to get Doman cards, which are pictures and they're exciting, they're new information, sometimes they view those as kind of dessert. And sometimes with the reading or math program, they'll start to be like, okay, yeah, we'll do those, but like we want the dessert, because kids are gluttonous. They always want that kind of thing. And so, sometimes I'll say, sometimes I'll say to parents, maybe play around with those dynamics a bit. Say like, all right, we're gonna do reading, math, and then we get to do the Doman cards, something like that. So you're kind of leading in anticipation up to whatever the most exciting thing is. Yeah.
Okay, and moving on to Allison's last question. This is about her 5.5-month-old daughter who is not crawling yet. She's been doing the Doman baby course, but inconsistently. And during the winter time, it was too cold to put her kid on the track. But now that it's summer, she's putting her child on the track, but she's not crawling. She is kind of wiggling down. And it takes her a long time because she is not in any hurry. She doesn't crawl on a flat surface unless she is upset. Then she makes it a little ways. I always put her on her tummy, but she is either very content to hang out and just watch everyone, or she rolls onto her back. What do you recommend to help her start crawling?
Okay, so a couple of thoughts here. First of all, one quick way that we could be of help is if you sent Noah a video of your baby on the crawling track. Sometimes we watch a video and what becomes very obvious to us quickly would take many back and forths of messaging to figure out. So that would be my first advice. Capture a video and send it to Noah.
By the way, I'm putting the contact information on the screen right now. You can email me at hello@domanlearning.com.
Perfect. Just to tell Allison some of the most common recommendations we give to parents when we watch a child on the crawling track. Number one is to increase the incline. Some parents are like so conservative with the incline. I think they're afraid the child's going to slide down. So they're so conservative. And sometimes you just have to increase the incline to make it a little easier for them. Another thing we often do is when we begin a child on the crawling track, we don't start them at the top of the track. We start them maybe a foot from the bottom of the track. So they have to cover a short distance to get to the bottom. You pick them up, you give them a hug, and then what you start to do over time is you start to begin your child higher and higher up on the crawling track. So they have that sense of success of their crawling to the bottom. Third thing is, where are you standing, Allison, when your child's on the crawling track? Are you standing at the bottom of the track? Are you getting down and talking to your child? Very often hearing mom or dad's voice cheering you on, the child wants to crawl toward mom or dad or toward a toy or something like that. So having some kind of reward at the bottom can be very, very useful.
And in general, would you recommend to keep doing this program even past 6 months?
Oh, sure. Oh, absolutely.
Because just for the record, everyone, we say, the Doman baby course is from 0 to 6 months, and Allison's daughter is 5.5 months.
Yeah. So absolutely. I mean, we would keep doing this program until Allison's baby starts crawling on her belly on the flat floor, or when she gets up on her hands and knees. And keep in mind, she's a 6-month-old baby now. She's a little bigger. She's a little, she's heavier, and it's harder as a baby gets heavier. It's harder for them to crawl on their belly. So you might have to be, you might have to be understanding of that. That's going to take a little bit of time. And last thing I will say, consistency. Can you start to get up to 3, 4, 5, 6 sessions in a day? The more you can do, the better.
And just the last part, Allison says she can track really well with her eyes, and she holds on to her fingers until she's standing. Should she discontinue those parts of the program or keep doing them, or what to do instead?
So in terms of pulling her up to a standing position, the next step is is actually picking the child up so their feet are up off the ground, so they're hanging, I'm not sure, Noah, do we discuss hanging in the Doman baby course, or do we just talk about that first part where we're lifting to a stand?
Oof. I can't
Allison,
remember off the
yeah,
top of my
Allison may
head.
want to go back and watch the manual videos where we talk about hanging. Also in the book Fit Baby, Smart Baby, Your Baby, we talk about it. So definitely don't stop. It's about moving your child to the next step. Yeah. The visual tracking exercise, you can stop. Yeah.
Okay, great. That's the end of our pre-submitted questions. For the next like 25 minutes, we'll be answering public questions. So if you have any, please comment or put them into chat and we will get to you. Okay, beginning with Raj KSGX. Hi, how do kids learn the rules of the English language, such as silent letters or the use of it in slight, etc.? And I'm assuming Raj is asking this because we primarily only teach sight words.
Yeah, and this is a great question, and let's just take a common example that I like to point out with the English language. So in the word ghost, gh makes the sound g, right, and in the word tough, gh makes the f sound, and in the word though, it's completely silent, right? So especially in many languages, I would say even most languages, it is not perfectly phonetic. And that creates a lot of complications for children to learn how to read. And so what we do, Raj, is because we show whole words, children are brilliant at, if they're taught facts, they can intuit the laws that govern those facts. So, in other words, if they see many single words and they see the word sight, for example, and might and light, at a certain point, once the child has seen enough words, their brains figure out the laws that govern English and they start to realize that IGHT makes an IT sound, right? So that's the approach that we take. And as children see more and more single words in the Doman method, their ability to intuit words that they've never even seen before also comes, because sometimes parents are worried, oh, if I teach just single words, sight words, maybe my child will only be able to read those words, but not new words. But all children at a certain point start to intuit new words that they haven't seen before, because the human brain is amazing. And the visual word form area, which is the area of the brain, which allows us to recognize words, helps essentially learns how to decode these words. So yeah, what we do is we show single words, we show a lot of them, and so children start to learn these rules.
Okay, great. Moving on to Janelle. Now, remember, we're now taking questions from the public. So if you have any, please put them in the comments or the chat below. So this is from Janelle. I am posting it so we can put it up. But I'm endeavoring to teach a mixed curriculum where I focus on the Doman cards for the suggested 15 minutes a day and spend the rest of the day integrating more play-based and exploration learning. To your knowledge, are there any pros and cons to doing that?
I can't think of any cons. Like there's no, your idea of using the rest of the day for kind of play-based learning or exploration-based learning. There's no kind of contraindication or problem of doing our reading program, our encyclopedic knowledge program, our math program, along with those other approaches. I know many parents who combine the Doman method with other kinds of education. And there are also many, parts of the Doman method program that we haven't had the chance to kind of create courses for. Like we talked about music before, right? And my grandfather, Glenn Doman, was very inspired by Shinichi Suzuki, the Japanese man who created the Suzuki method. And so we've had, hundreds or thousands of children who grew up on the Doman method who also learned musical instruments through the Suzuki method. And so we have a listening program for that, but we haven't yet created a course for that yet. So, but yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, if you want to combine those Doman method teaching programs with music appreciation or art appreciation, or doing creative projects with your child. I think that's wonderful. I mean, I'm all about project-based learning. I think children learn best when as they get older, as they engage in projects and they have to problem solve with others, parents, or in a group setting. So I think that's wonderful. Noah, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you said it well. This is another question from Janelle. Let me put it up. This is a personal question, but how would you say learning via your grandfather's method helped you through your schooling years, and how, if at all, has it contributed to where you are now as adults? Yes, that's the end of it. We got cut off.
Great question. So how has it impacted me? And Noah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too.
Yeah.
So I think that from an academic standpoint, because I have to answer this question in different ways. From an academic standpoint, it made learning much, much easier for me than it did a lot of other young people that I knew at school. And I didn't really, as a young child, I didn't really pick up on that. It wasn't something until more my teenage years. When you're growing up as a child, you just accept everything for the way it is. Like, I didn't think I was different or special in any way. I still don't think I'm necessarily different or special. But it wasn't until my teenage years that I started to realize, oh, look at these other people who are really struggling in their academics. And many of them very smart people. In some areas, even smarter than me. Maybe they were more handy or they understood cars better than me. But here they were failing out in math classes, right? Or an English class, or they weren't able to write well, or they had difficulty with reading. And it wasn't because they were bad people or lazy or crazy, or stupid. They were good people, but they just, I obviously had a kind of advantage. And actually that didn't make me feel better. It made me feel sad for them, because I didn't feel that my ability to get good grades with less work wasn't because of me. It was because of a gift that was given to me by my parents, right? With this program. So from an academic standpoint, it just made learning much easier for me, and it made it easier for me to succeed in school. I think from a social standpoint, it made me more confident, because I think that when I realized I could kind of tackle anything, that gave me a sense of confidence. And so I think I look back most of all just with a deep sense of gratitude for what I was given. I think I'm a very fortunate person. And it's one of the reasons why I'm passionate and talk about this to parents, because I reap the rewards as a child, and I think other kids should too. Noah, you want to say anything from your side?
Yeah, I think, a big part of, growing up in a family that everyone is being taught, right? And you're learning about so many different subjects, is you are introduced to so many different concepts at an early age. And there's a famous study. It's a baseball study where they've done it in many classrooms. They'd have kids read about baseball, and then they would test them on their retention. And you would think that the kids who were the best were the ones who were the best readers, but that's not the case. It's actually the kids who know the most about baseball. And so being, introduced to calculus at, 12, right? Even though I wasn't maybe doing hard calculus problems, but the fact that I was introduced and respected enough to, engage with these concepts, definitely later down the road when I ended up studying math in college, I think gave me a huge leg up. Another thing is, I think just being able to stack and work with multiple ideas at the same time. Whether that was, I feel like it was through my early, education and my parents teaching me, but I do feel that compared to my peers, I was able to hold more definitions or facts in my head, which definitely helped in the academic process. Those are the two that kind of come to my mind, Spencer.
Yeah, and I one last thing that I'll say, it's not something we discuss very often because it's something which, takes generations and generations to really observe. But I do think one beautiful thing about this program is it gives even more opportunity to generational growth in a family, in the sense that if you look at my mom, and I don't think my mom would object to me saying this, my mom had a lot of difficulty in school. She didn't like school. She was did not get good grades, and kind of struggled. She made it through, but she struggled. And even looking back, she has almost no spectacular memories of her time in school. And she gave us this program so that we could find learning easier and more enjoyable than she did. And by the time I remember by the time I was maybe 10 or 11, I had surpassed my mom in things like math and in musical ability, right? It's actually one of the beautiful things about our program is like parents getting to watch their, young, child, 10, 11, 12, be better at something than them. And at a certain point, because I'm 9 years older than Noah, my mom would sometimes say, "Hey, Spencer, you check Noah's math, or you go over this math thing with him," because she was like, at this point, you're better than me at this, and you like it more than me too. She didn't even like math. She just wanted us to love it so that we didn't have to despise it, kind of like she had. And so that's a beautiful thing to think about, even the potential of generation after generation handing to the next generation intellectual development and growth beyond what we've achieved in our generation. Definitely what I hope for the next generation of children and children in the Doman family.
100%. I'm going to now put up a question by Mr. White Davis. I do not know yet. I do not know yet much about your method, but what I have seen so far has made me interested to know more. My son is 28 months old and recently developed perfect pitch based on my labeling the notes for him. I'd love to help his speech take off and would love to learn more about your method in order to help him. Where should I start? Just a little extra fact for you, Spencer. Yeah. Mr. White Davis says he currently has about 150 to 200 words, but does not speak sentences as yet.
Got it. Well, first of all, you read my mind, because my first thought was when you said I would like his speech to take off, my first thought was how many words does he speak? So the fact you said 150, very, very helpful. So, when we look at a 28-month-old child, obviously children at that age can differ in their speech development. That's completely normal. And girls also tend to be on average more advanced than boys in their speech development. But typically at around that age, we're hoping to have about 300 words of speech on average, just to give you an idea. And so I think that, you thinking about speech development is, a very smart place for you to be, focusing your time and attention. Now, let me just say something about perfect pitch. Perfect pitch is a great part of the music appreciation program. I talked about music appreciation earlier in this session. If you didn't get to hear that, I do recommend you go back and listen to it. But perfect pitch is a great way to train the human ear. Noah and I experienced this as a child, where my mom would use a xylophone that had the notes labeled. Keep in mind, my mom never learned a musical instrument, okay? Until we were children, she learned a little bit of the violin with us. But by the age of probably 8, we had surpassed her in ability. What she would do is she'd take a xylophone and she would play notes on the xylophone and tell us what they were. So she'd hit a note and say, "This is A." She'd hit another note and say, "This is B." This is C, and so on. Or if you live in a do, re, mi, fa, sol, country, parents do that. It's a great way to develop perfect pitch. And so, Noah, you might remember this. We used to play copycat games where she would play a note and we wouldn't look. And then we would take the mallet and try to hit the same note, and we developed that ability in those young years of life. It's a great way to develop perfect pitch. So
Mr. White Davis said he same what I did with my son. So he also did that.
Amazing. So you're on the right track in terms of from a musical standpoint. From a speech development standpoint, what would I do with a child? My first piece of advice, interestingly, may be a bit of a surprise, is to make sure that you're giving your child ample opportunity every day to walk and start running. Recently, a family member went to my mom. They had a 2-year-old boy with delayed speech. And they said to my mom, we don't have a lot of time. We're both working parents. What's the most important thing we can do for our child's speech development? And she said, take your 2-year-old out every day, walk for 20 minutes. And they were like, okay, we'll give it a try. They gave it a try. They told her 2 weeks later, his speech was starting to explode. And Noah and I have seen that child, their speech improve very, very quickly. So walking and running develops the cortex, which is the highest level of the brain. We use it for speech development. It's also very good for developing breathing and respiration, which is very important for the ability to speak sentences. You have to regulate your breath to be able to speak in sentences. So I would definitely do that. I would definitely start a reading program with your child because, as we always point out with the reading program that we do, reading is language. It's just the visual form of language, right? So when you're showing your child, these pictures, they're learning, of course, blue, but then when you're showing them the words, it's very common for children to repeat the words after the parent. We had a mom who earlier in this session said her child repeats everything she says with these cards. Very typical for kids to repeat the words. And then the parents will tell us, now they're using all of these colors in their daily language, or we showed them the foods and now the child names every food they see. So it's very good for speech development. So I definitely welcome to Doman Learning. The fact you're doing perfect pitch on your own, great for you. I'd actually love to hear just where you learned about that, because very few parents I'm guessing you probably play musical instruments yourself, but very few parents know about that at a young age. And definitely check out domanlearning.com. Check out our reading course, our other early education courses, because it's right up your alley.
Yeah, and if you want to reach out and you want to talk to me, I'm more than happy. I have you can schedule a discovery call. I actually put that up on the screen right now. But with the QR code, you can schedule a 15-minute discovery call, and we can talk more about it.
Great.
Okay. Music teacher.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, we have around 6 to 8 minutes left. We are going through public questions. So if you have any, put them in the chat or the comments below. We are going on to Janelle's question. Last thing, I haven't finished the book yet, but my dad shared with me that he was researching and saw something regarding a social engagement element of the Doman method. Could you share more about that?
Yeah, it's a good question, Janelle. We do have certain social development programs. Unfortunately, at Doman Learning, we haven't had the opportunity yet to release any courses on the subject. And I can't say that I think we have any books that talk about social development specifically yet. We do have a program which is, for younger children, children kind of 18 months and up, which is called the Code of Conduct, which is a social program which is based around teaching children boundaries. Because during that age, it's very important to teach children boundaries, to teach them that there are just kind of certain social lines we don't cross, like we don't hit others, we're gentle, we don't scream, things like that. Just ways of At that age, it's more about saying, okay, these are the boundaries, and we don't cross them. And then we have another program which is called Katie's program that is all about how do you raise a child who's independent and mature and kind and thoughtful. Janelle, if you reach out to Noah, the links to the Doman International courses, I think if Janelle was interested in learning more on the subject, you could share those links with her.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can email me at hello@domanlearning.com and I'll get back to you.
Yeah. Again, it's not something we offer publicly, so it's kind of on request only. But if you want to learn about those topics, yeah, we've got some videos for you.
Okay, moving on to Layla Fit 92's questions. Thoughts on ABA for autistic children?
Yeah, not good. Not good thoughts. I have to be honest. ABA is highly repetitive and can be extremely stressful for kids with autism. And almost worse than all of that, the results are not impressive. I direct an organization called Doman International, where we use the Doman method with children with special needs. And I did want to say, if parents have concerns about autism or speech delay or any kind of developmental delays, check out domaninternational.org. By the way, I also host a weekly webinar for Doman International just about children with special needs at Doman International's Facebook page and Instagram page, so you could follow us there, YouTube as well. So, but yeah, I don't have positive feelings about ABA. I've actually seen many children, unfortunately, that regressed during ABA because of the stress that it induced.
Someone is asking, what is ABA?
Yeah, ABA stands for Applied Behavioral Analysis. It's a behavioral intervention, which is used with many children with autism. And basically what they have the children do is they have them engage in repeated tasks over and over and over again. And the children need to demonstrate a consistent ability to do something before they move on to the next activity. So it can create a lot of stress for the child, because if the child basically isn't perfect with doing something, they're going to have to keep doing it over and over and over again.
Layla, by the way, followed up. I bought the book regarding autism, but hasn't started reading it yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think Layla's probably talking about this book, Answering Autism. I wrote this with my dad, Douglas. I highly, highly recommend it. If you have a child with another diagnosis, any other kind of special need, or if you're just a parent who's concerned about your child's development, I've also got a book called The Doman Method from Special Needs to Wellness. Both of these books are available on Amazon. Layla, let's see, Layla is Layla on Instagram?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Layla, I'd recommend you just check out Doman International's Instagram page. Feel free to send us a message there. The staff there can help you, just to give you more resources for children with special needs. Doman International.
Okay, and I'm putting Doman International in the chat. Okay, moving on to B. Saracedo. Nice to see you. I'm curious about how you apply the mobility program with your kids. If applicable, babies sleep in supine or prone position in hospital and at home, use of strollers, and then run training stage. I think there's a correction, stage 6. Is that correct?
I think it's stage 4.
Stage 4.
Yeah, probably referring to the Fit Baby, Smart Baby, Your Baby book, is my guess. So which is my dad Douglas's book about mobility development. So yeah, we use a mobility program.
Yeah, she's currently reading the Fit Baby, Smart Baby book.
Got it. Yeah, so we honestly, you have the most important resource in your hands, because the book Fit Baby, Smart Baby, Your Baby kind of tells the whole story about mobility development from a baby putting them down on their belly in the infant crawling track all the way up to, walking and running programs for children, gymnastics programs for developing balance. So I think you have the most important resource. And as I said, that book was written by my grandfather Glenn and my dad Douglas. In terms of, so we put babies down as much as possible in the prone position on their bellies. As for sleep, we leave that up. That's a decision parents need to make. There is in the Fit Baby book a lot of information about that. There's a piece of research that was published by Dr. Ralph Pelligra about the what is called the Back to Sleep campaign, and some concerns about the research that was done about putting babies on their backs to sleep. But in the end, that's really a parent's decision, and you should make the decision you feel is best for your child. But there's just no question putting babies on their bellies throughout the day, whenever possible, is really important for their mobility development. Yeah.
Let's see. By the way, B. Saracedo, did you have any extra parts to your question? Just want to make sure, because we're basically at the end, everyone. We're at the end. But thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you for the pre-submitted questions. They were excellent, as always, from our parents who are enrolled in our courses. And it's so great answering public questions, too. If you are wondering if the Doman method is right for you, and your family, you can always reach out to me at hello@domanlearning.com or DM us on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. I will answer you personally. You can also schedule a discovery call with me, a 15-minute discovery call, and we can talk and see what's the best course of action. They're my favorite part of my day, talking to you guys, so please schedule them. Spencer, anything you'd like to say before we hop off?
No, just that I agreed with everything you said.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again, everyone, and we will see you next month.
See you next month. Bye, everyone.